In a small, dusty town nestled between rolling hills, lived a young widow named Clara. With delicate features shadowed by loss, Clara was pregnant and trying to navigate life without her husband, who had passed away unexpectedly. Each day felt heavier than the last, as she struggled to cope with both her grief and the pressures of impending motherhood. Clara often found herself sitting alone in her modest home, staring out the window at the bustling streets. The townsfolk moved around her, their laughter and chatter a sharp reminder of the joy she had lost. She felt invisible and isolated, as if the weight of her sorrow had pushed her into the shadows. To survive, she took on work at the local saloon, a place filled with rough men and rowdy patrons. Cleaning the floors was tough, and every scratch of her broom echoed her heartbreak. The smell of spilled drinks and tobacco clung to her clothes long after her shifts, mingling with the scent of dusty floorboards. While she scrubbed away, Clara faced judgmental glances from the townspeople who whispered behind closed doors. In their eyes, she was just a widow, burdened by her condition. Despite her best efforts to stay strong for her unborn child, tears often threatened to spill down her cheeks when she thought about the future. Yet amid the struggle, Clara held onto a flicker of hope. Maybe one day, life would show her a new path and bring someone special into her world again. The saloon was a noisy place, filled with the raucous laughter of rough men and the sound of glasses clinking. Clara stepped inside, her heart heavy as she prepared for another long shift. The floors were sticky with spilled drinks, and an unpleasant scent of smoke hung in the air. As she grabbed her broom, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the chaos surrounding her. Each day, Clara scrubbed the wooden floors that seemed to absorb every misfortune. She bent low, her aching back protesting as she pushed her broom across the worn boards. Every sweep reminded her of the weight she carried, not just from her work but also from her worries about the future. The saloon's patrons often glanced at her with pity or disdain, whispering among themselves as if she couldn't hear. Their judgment felt like another burden added to the pile of grief she already carried. The rough treatment by some customers made her skin crawl. They laughed loudly and shared stories, but their eyes would linger on her belly, drawing conclusions about her situation without a word spoken. Clara tried to ignore them while continuing to clean, but each judgmental stare pierced through her heart. Despite these challenges, Clara pushed through for the sake of her unborn child. She reminded herself that this was merely a chapter in her life, a difficult one, but not the end of her story. A flicker of determination began to rise in her chest as she cleaned, whispering to herself that better days were ahead. One fateful afternoon, as Clara was mopping the floor of the saloon, the door swung open with a creak, and in walked a one-legged cowboy named Gus. He limped in confidently, his weathered hat tipped low, casting a shadow over his rugged face. The room fell silent for a moment as all eyes turned toward him, curiosity buzzing in the air. Clara couldn't help but notice the way he carried himself. There was something about his presence that felt both strong and humble. Gus had lost his leg in a cattle accident years ago but didn't let it define him. Instead, he wore it like a badge of honor. With a quick smile and an easy laugh, he made his way to the bar, joking with the bartender about how he'd come for a drink but ended up collecting stories instead. His cheerful attitude seemed to lift the heavy atmosphere of the saloon, if only for a moment. Clara caught his eye as she worked, and he offered her a warm smile that made her heart flutter unexpectedly. Unlike others in the saloon who regarded her with pity, Gus saw her for who she was, a strong woman facing overwhelming challenges. As he settled at a table, Clara couldn't resist stealing glances at him while she worked. When he noticed her watching, he winked playfully, causing her to blush. Their connection sparked something within Clara, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time, and she wondered if perhaps the stranger could help change her life's direction. As days turned into weeks, Gus became a regular at the saloon, often sitting at the same table where Clara could see him. Their eyes would meet across the room, and each time, Clara felt a little spark of joy igniting within her. Slowly, they began to share conversations during his visits. At first, they talked about simple things, the weather, the local gossip, and Gus's adventures as a cowboy despite his injury. One evening, as Clara wiped down the bar, Gus leaned in with a genuine smile. "You know," he said, "it takes a strong woman to face what you do. I admire that." His kindness made Clara blush, and she found herself opening up to him about her struggles and fears for her unborn child. To her surprise, Gus listened intently, nodding with understanding and compassion in his eyes. They shared laughter too. Gus had a way of lightening the mood with his witty stories that made even the roughest patrons chuckle. Clara felt lighter each time she spoke with him. One afternoon, he surprised her by bringing her a homemade meal wrapped in a cloth. "I thought you could use something good after all that cleaning," he grinned. That small gesture warmed Clara's heart and solidified their bond. With each conversation and moment of kindness, she began to realize that she had found not just a friend, but someone who truly saw her for who she was. Little by little, hope blossomed in her heart, signaling that life might have more in store for her than she had ever imagined. As Clara and Gus grew closer, they found themselves facing challenges that neither had anticipated. The townspeople, set in their old ways, couldn't understand their relationship. Some whispered harsh words behind their backs, questioning how a pregnant widow could possibly be interested in a man with a disability. Clara often felt the weight of those judgments looming over her, yet the strength of her feelings for Gus pushed her onward. One evening, after hearing particularly cruel gossip from a group of women at the saloon, Clara sat down at their usual table, visibly shaken. Gus noticed her distress immediately and reached out, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "Don't let them get to you," he said softly. "We both have our battles to fight, but together we are stronger." Gus's words encouraged Clara to stand tall against the negativity surrounding them. They began to navigate their relationship on their own terms, seeking moments of joy in simple gestures, sharing laughter over dinner or exchanging dreams for the future during quiet moments away from prying eyes. They supported each other steadfastly. Gus would often offer Clara rides when she needed them and helped her with odd jobs around town. In return, Clara shared her hopes for motherhood and showed him little acts of kindness that made him smile. Through it all, their determination never wavered. They learned that love could be a powerful shield against adversity, reminding them that they were not just surviving but truly living together. One warm evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Gus decided it was the perfect time to propose to Clara. He had spent days planning the moment, wanting it to be as special as the love they had nurtured despite all odds. He chose a quiet spot by the riverbank, where they often found solace together, away from the judgmental eyes of the town. Gus arrived early to set up a small picnic with Clara's favorite treats: fresh bread, cheese, and sweet berries. He laid out a checkered blanket and scattered wildflowers around the edges to create a charming atmosphere. As the sun cast its golden glow upon them, he felt nervous yet excited, knowing that this moment could change everything. When Clara arrived, her eyes sparkled at the sight of the beautiful setting. She looked radiant, with a soft breeze brushing her hair. Gus gestured for her to sit down, and together they enjoyed their simple feast while sharing laughter and stories. Eventually, he took a deep breath, feeling his heart race. "Clara," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've shown me there's light in every single day. I can't imagine my life without you and our little one." With a trembling hand, he pulled out a small, handmade ring from his pocket, a simple band engraved with love. "Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she nodded, overwhelmed with joy. She whispered, "Yes," and they embraced tightly, feeling their love envelop them like a warm blanket. The world around them faded away as they both realized they had just taken a bold step into a bright new future together. Word spread quickly throughout the small town after Gus proposed to Clara, and reactions were mixed. Some townspeople couldn't help but express their happiness for the couple. "It's about time someone brought joy to that poor widow," one elderly woman remarked. Others admired Gus's determination to stand by Clara, viewing their love story as a heartwarming tale of resilience in the face of adversity. However, not everyone was supportive. A group of men at the saloon grumbled and exchanged disapproving glances. "What does a cowboy want with a pregnant widow?" one scoffed, while another muttered about how society's standards were slipping. The whispers and judgmental stares followed Clara and Gus wherever they went, making them acutely aware of the scrutiny surrounding their relationship. Despite this backlash, Gus and Clara remained steadfast in their love for one another. They often found solace in each other's company, knowing that while some judged them, others cheered them on. They also began to notice small signs of acceptance, lessons learned within conversations with open-minded townsfolk who admired their courage and commitment. As they prepared for their wedding, Clara felt more determined than ever to rise above the negativity. She realized that love could inspire both acceptance and resistance, but it was their unwavering bond that truly mattered. With each passing day, she felt ready to embrace her future, no matter what challenges lay ahead in their journey together. The day of Clara and Gus's wedding dawned bright and clear, with the sun casting a warm glow over the small town. Clara, radiant in a simple yet elegant white dress, felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she prepared for one of the most important moments of her life. The ceremony was set in a picturesque clearing near the riverbank, where they had shared so many special memories. Guests began to arrive, filling the area with laughter and chatter. Friends and family gathered to witness their union, some bringing wildflowers to decorate the makeshift altar. Gus stood at the front, his heart racing as he watched Clara walk down the aisle. The sight of her glowing face made all the challenges they had faced together fade away. As Clara reached him, they exchanged heartfelt smiles that spoke volumes about their journey. The officiant began the ceremony, and Clara felt tears of joy welling in her eyes as she listened to Gus recite vows filled with love and promise. "I will stand by you through thick and thin," he declared, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. Their vows echoed in the air like a sweet melody, surrounded by nature's beauty. When it was time to kiss, Clara and Gus leaned into each other, sealing their commitment with a gentle but passionate embrace that brought cheers from their guests. Amidst laughter, joy, and even a few happy tears, they celebrated their love with a small reception afterward, sharing food, music, and dancing under the open sky. In that moment, surrounded by those who supported them, Clara and Gus felt an overwhelming sense of hope for their future together as a family. As Clara and Gus began their life together as a married couple, they dove headfirst into building a family. The couple moved into a small but cozy home nestled near the outskirts of town, where Clara could set up a nursery filled with love and warmth. They painted the walls soft pastel colors, hung up handmade decorations, and filled the room with baby clothes given to them by supportive friends from the saloon. Despite their love for one another, challenges loomed on the horizon. Clara often grappled with fears about motherhood while managing the daily responsibilities around the house. Gus worked tirelessly to provide for them, taking on various odd jobs that left him exhausted but determined. He never hesitated to come home with flowers or homemade treats, each gesture a reminder that he was there for her. The couple faced pockets of judgment from some townsfolk who still couldn't accept their union. Yet they learned to lean on each other even more during these tough moments. On particularly hard days, they would take long walks by the riverbank, reflecting on their progress and dreams for the future, reminding one another how far they had come. With every obstacle they faced, Clara and Gus cultivated resilience in their relationship. They found strength in shared laughter over dinners, moments of quiet intimacy at dusk, and their unwavering support for one another. Together, they were not just building a home. They were nurturing a love that promised joy and hope despite life's challenges ahead. As Clara looked back on her journey, she marveled at how unexpected love had transformed her life. From the depths of grief and isolation after losing her first husband to the warmth and joy she found with Gus, she realized that sometimes life offers second chances when we least expect them. Their love story was not just about overcoming challenges. It was a testament to resilience and the power of connection. In the cozy home they built together, Clara felt a sense of safety and belonging that had eluded her for so long. Each day brought new adventures as they prepared for their growing family, filling their home with laughter and affection. The fears that once clouded Clara's mind were gradually replaced by hope and excitement for the future, reminding her that love could heal even the deepest wounds. The couple understood that their road would not always be easy. They faced obstacles together, but it was their unwavering support for one another that made every challenge surmountable. Clara learned to embrace her journey as a mother, while Gus stood by her side as both a partner and a friend. In the end, Clara's story became one of triumph over adversity, highlighting the strength of love to bring light into dark moments. As they awaited the arrival of their child, she felt grateful for the second chance at happiness life had given her through Gus. With hearts full of hope and courage, they stepped into their future hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next together.